So which we're it's number 12 this week. Is that what it is?
Stop
13.
saying that. Just say welcome
13?
to. Don't say number 13. Just say welcome to Messy Middle.
Okay, but you guys are supposed to create music and
I'll do that. Jesus, I'm like,
animations.
give me the weekend. I have my board meeting tomorrow. I have to work on that. Sorry.
Yeah, it's on Frank's to-do list for months now, so
Okay. Okay.
Okay,
just give it some
yeah.
more time.
Okay, so welcome to the messy middle with your co-hosts, Gabriel, Teddy, and Frank. Is that
Yay.
more official? Yeah.
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 So let's get into some updates. I think this week we want to discuss travel and the idea of making sure that you're traveling and actually enjoying and having some fun during this messy middle period because without travel, without I would say meeting new people and traveling, new cultural experiences, new countries, um, it's hard to get out of your mind and out of your zone. So why don't we go through some updates and let's get into some travels because I just got back from Paris and I'm already missing it. And Frank is there.
I am. But yeah, we can. I mean, Paris to me is different, right? I grew up there, so it's like traveling back home. It's definitely different than visiting something
Am I
exciting
not allowed to
in a new
call out this
place.
mic? This mic is what is this? Are they sponsoring us? I mean, this mic is it's like you
It's
gotta okay. Back to you.
no, it's fine. It's fine. This way we have decent audio as I'm on the go, but I'm still learning to use them. Um, but yeah, I mean, we can talk about travel. I can talk to you about Paris, but it would be two different subjects. So I don't want to go into Paris because I grew up there and I left Paris because to me it's like it's awful to live here.
Um, Unless you're rich, basically.
It's like New York.
Yeah,
Why is it why
got
is
it.
it bad to go back home? Is it like the
No,
memories
no, it's
from the
not bad.
past, or
No, no, it's not bad. I mean, like, but Paris to me, it's like I guess if you're a tourist, you're gonna see Paris as like, oh my god, the Eiffel Tower. I meet in Paris, oh that Nuts Museum, and I went to there. It's like when you're first timer in New York, and you're like, oh my god, like New York, it's so great. Like there's all these things. Like, oh, look a taxi. Wow, like look at these activity, and then you do 10 years in New York, and then all of that disappear, and what you're left with is rats and crappy weather. And
well, that's not
and
entirely
for
true.
Paris,
So
it's your first year. We'll talk in 10. But
no, not really.
but the
No,
but in
that's
Paris,
bullshit. That's bullshit.
sure, sure. But in Paris, it's kind of the same, right? It's like I grew up there, I live there, I work there, and so what you're left with is taxes and nonsense and strikes every day.
Yeah.
I think you're right about the taxes, the nonsense, and the strikes every day. I see Paris from rose-colored what is it, La Vie en Rose, right? La Vie,
Yeah.
something like that. Rose-colored glasses, and when I go, it's let's stay at the Ritz. I mean, we don't stay at the Ritz. Let's go to the Ritz, and let's go. Yeah, walk along the Seine. Let's go
But it's the
to
same.
Saint-Germain.
Again, it's the same with every city, right? I'm talking about Paris and New York
Yeah,
because that's where we are, but it's going to be the same with Tallinn. It's the same everywhere, I think. And maybe it's the entrepreneurial brain, but I get tired of stuff once I know the patterns. And like and
but there,
after a while, like what's exciting and new becomes old, and you don't care about it anymore. And when you're there, then I think it's time to move. And to me at least, that's the way I do it. It's like there's no perfect place in the world. I can like it's the same Venice. I was there a week and I was like, holy shit, Venice is amazing. I should move to Venice. But I'm sure after 5 years in Venice, I'll be like, Venice is crap.
like
And
five
so or
weeks.
the same with Rome, or so it's so to me it's more, and the same with San Francisco. And I lived it like same San Francisco. It's amazing at first, and then you see everything that's wrong. And so to me, uh, to me, it's like it's like I think 5 years is how often I need to move.
Yeah. I don't. I mean, that's probably in your case. I don't agree that's true for
No,
me.
that's my case. That's my
Uh,
case. I
yeah.
again, like all these cities are great, but I can't think
Yeah.
of one perfect city.
I,
And
for me,
Um,
that's New York definitely. I think it's the perfect city. I'm not sure how long it's gonna take. I'm so defensive when someone like you says it sucks. Probably you haven't lived properly in the city. You probably worked your ass off here, and that's a different vibe. But if you just like try to live and to kind of
no, no,
immerse with the
I
culture, it's a huge exploratory field where you can spend
no, no, I had that phase.
decades
I loved
exploring.
yeah, decades exploring, but I had good time in New York. Like I would say, the first 3 years, 4 years were great. But after 5 years, it started to wear off. Um, And the same
I
everywhere,
was in
I
New
guess.
I, I was in New York 10, and it was after 7 where I really felt. And I know that our discussion is on traveling, but also I like this concept of moving too. So maybe it's
Mhm.
moving, traveling, getting off
Yeah.
your rear end to do some things. Um,
But
but in New
everybody's
York,
different, right? It's yeah.
I think everybody's different. So New York is an incredible city, but it's also extremely challenging to to live um, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're not making money. But let's say even if you are making money, but there's so much cultural activity there. I think
Mm.
it's funny. Your home is Paris, and it's a metropolitan city. My home is where I am right now. It's in Florida, like where I'm originally from, is Delray Beach, Florida, and I need to move. Like Nasi and I, obviously, you guys know we've had this conversation probably for the last 2 years. I need to move somewhere, and I got home today, and Nasi from Paris, and Nasi was like, "You got to make a decision where we're going because we're miserable." It's like, and the reason why, and it doesn't make any sense in reality because people are like, "Well, it's a perfect place.
Yeah,
It's
people
sunny.
would dream to be where you guys at. It's
Dream,
relatively miserable.
dream."
Yeah.
We are 10 minutes from the water. Our airport's 20 minutes away. There's no state taxes. It's sunny most of the days. I think it's almost 60 degrees, 70 degrees. It's probably 72
Mm.
degrees outside. But I think, Frank and I are similar in that way, is you need new places. I've been here now 4 years, and I was in LA 2 years, 10 years New York.
Mm.
But Teddy, I think the interesting thing might be, you got to New York around the same age that Frank got to New York. When did you move to New York, Frank? 34?
Yeah, it must be quite right. I guess 33, something like that. Yeah,
So
34. Yeah.
I moved to New York when I was 21, 20.
Mm.
And it's like you see it so differently because you're like, "Oh yeah, I can sleep
I
on,
was there. I was in New York when I was 22. I've like
I know, but you
definitely
didn't
loved
live
it.
there. But you didn't
No,
live
but
there.
and I was there when I was 12. But every time for sure, I was so excited. I was like, amazing, like party every night, meet tons of people. I was overwhelmed with excitement.
No.
Loved it.
Yeah, but it's
So
it's
okay.
different. Just wanted to go back to what's wrong with my voice. You guys are talking about the places where you live right now and comparing that. I cannot think of me moving back to Skopje at this point.
Of
Like
course,
I
of
will
course.
feel like so
Agreed.
miserable.
Agreed.
Oh,
Like
yeah,
Agreed.
of course.
so,
No, no,
I
no
think the
worries.
home
No,
base, yeah,
definitely.
it's
Yeah, yeah.
totally out
Yeah.
of.
No, no.
I,
I
I, I
Yeah,
want to
think
be sure I talk. When Gabriel says he's miserable, where is that? And when I say, man,
yeah.
New York, we don't talk from the point of view of what the average person would say or think. Like for sure, it's
this is like a
we're
psychopath point of view.
but that's the whole point of talking about the messy middle, which is entrepreneurs and post-exit entrepreneurs. I guess are weird creatures. And
Oh, the messy middle would have been so different if I was somewhere else. I mean, in
yeah,
particular in Skopje, it would have been
oh,
real
for sure,
mess.
for
I
sure.
don't know how I would have
But what I mean
survived
is our
that.
crowd of people who are a little bit weird, and I think like at least on my end, the pattern I see is I need to move every 5 to 10 years. It might be different with
Mm.
family and kids. It's part of the reason I moved to Tallinn. Tallinn might look like very boring from far away, but statistically, it's like a
Very.
heaven for children and family. It's
Mm.
number one. It ranks number one on OECD for Europe or for pretty much everything related to family. And pretty good for startups too. So that's kind of what I had in mind. Um, but
Hey,
after
I'm
that,
excited to
I think
visit.
yeah, you should. And after that, I know I want to move to Vietnam. I don't know what's gonna happen. I know I'll drop by San Francisco maybe a year or two before. That's kind of where I am now. And I
You think
think after
Julia?
that,
What else? She wants to
maybe
go to Vietnam?
Africa or yeah, she's cool with it. Like, and after that would be Africa or South America. I just like the idea of living in each continent for 5 6 years.
Mm.
But that's very personal. I realize no one else does that.
So you get to Africa by the time you're 65? Is that the plan? 60, 65?
Maybe I guess it depends how fast Nigeria will grow, or
Yeah.
if it's South America is more interesting.
I'm
But I
just,
just
I'm,
like
I'm
to
just,
me, it's so different. I used to travel a lot, and now I feel like
yeah.
traveling by living somewhere is a different experience.
Mm.
But I think that happens as we age, right?
Mm.
Where, um, we used to want to go to a place for a day, 2 days, 3 days, and maybe do like a long trip, like a month, 2 months, but we'd go to like 10 different countries in those 2 or 3 months.
Mm.
Um, and why, let's get into this sort of why this traveling is important. Like that's how I used to do it. And now this past summer, I spent a month in Europe, but it was mostly 2 weeks in France and 2 weeks in Italy.
Yeah.
And like we spent 6, 7 days with you guys in Saint Tropez, and it was so nice. Like you got to do the activities, you got to see kind of like what the routine was like, and I enjoy traveling. Like I went this past weekend to Paris. It was a last minute decision, um, and hopefully those bubbles don't show up in the real. Do
They
they
do,
show
but
up in
it's
the?
fine.
Okay, people
They
like
do.
bubbles. It's like it's a unique experience. So I made this last minute decision to go to Paris. I'll give you this example. And Nastya was not really happy that I was going, even though at first she told me she was. But I went with Mike Vorhaus, who's the business partner of my SPAC, and he's like, "Come over, enjoy yourself. I'll treat for the hotels and the meals. You take the flight over." And it's nice to have friends that business partners that like to do that. Frank, thank you for letting
That's really
us
cool.
stay at. Yeah, but Frank, you let us stay at your place in Saint Tropez, and I know Teddy would let us stay at his place in Skopje. And same thing if you guys want to stay here in Florida, you're more than welcome to. But I took advantage of that trip. I went to go see the Rothko retrospective, which was incredible. It was $3 billion plus of Rothko over 12 galleries. It was the most insane um, Rothko immersion experience ever. So it was totally worth that. But also, like, I got to see Frank's co-founder, Jill from Electus, breakfast at the Ritz, and I met with 3 or 4 entrepreneurs
You told
that
me,
have
but it's bad, by
recently.
the way.
Two of them were fine. So we
You said
can't.
the orange juice. No, you said the orange juice wasn't freshly pressed. That
Oh, you're
you're talking
talking
about
about
the
the
Ritz.
breakfast.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
yeah, no, okay. The orange juice.
Don't go to the Ritz.
It's don't go to the Ritz for breakfast, but the experience was fun. Like
Okay,
I don't think you expect the food to be amazing. So I don't know. Whatever. It was a good time. It was a good time. So
good.
uh, I wouldn't say make that happen all the time. I actually like my hotel breakfast better at the Hyatt. Um, but
But
I
let's.
took all the pastries. But like, okay, so okay, yeah, you're interrupt. What's up? Am I talking jet lagged?
A little.
No,
I
you're
want
good.
to go back to patterns, and I want to pass it also to Teddy. But like going back at helping our fellow entrepreneurs who are in the messy middle. To me, the value I see in traveling, there's two subjects. There's moving to a new place, and there's traveling, to refresh. And definitely, I think when you're lost, when you have zero energy, and if you have a little bit of cash, just travel somewhere that makes you happy is definitely wherever it is. If New York makes you happy because you've never been to New York, then go to New York. If you grew up in New York and you want to see nature and some trees, then yeah, I don't know, go to the jungle. Whatever works for you, definitely it's great. Then there's the idea of what we talked before, which is geography is destiny. And then you might want to explore some places where you consider living, and then definitely get an Airbnb for a month or two, just to validate. That kind of makes sense to move somewhere. And then after that, I think there's also the old way, but I think it still works, where people would used to travel and be like, oh, I found this business that doesn't exist in my country and I want to bring it back there. It's harder now with the internet, but it still works. And then you see what's happening. Like, for example, to me, Shenzhen was a good example of a place where I was surprised. Like I went to Hong Kong, in 2009 and Shenzhen in 2019, so 10 years apart. And I was amazed. I had no idea China made such a huge, like, it really feels like they're way ahead of Europe now. If I would say 5 years ahead of Europe. Like everything is, for it could be good or bad, whatever you want, but everybody's very young. Uh, Everybody is like, wait, when you pick up money at the ATM, it's using your face, it's face recognition. And the taxi driver who was driving us like crossed a line. They got a text message live that say they got a fine. And then you go back to France, to Charles de Gaulle, or to New York, to JFK, and you're like, holy shit. Like, or you go to Turkey, like the airport in Turkey is amazing. And so I think traveling also helps you to see opportunities that you might not know exist. So anywhere, like if you don't travel, that it's definitely bad, so get a passport and go somewhere, and it has to rewire your brain one way or another, no doubt. And
Yeah.
Teddy can speak because you come kind of the other way, right? Which is you're in an ecosystem that's very tiny and very slow, and suddenly you're like in one of the most active places in the world, and that has to have indeed like a lot of benefits for business too.
Yeah. I think it's travel, change of scenery in general. It's a good thing when you're stuck in one place for a long time. But I used to travel a lot more in the past, and those travels were a couple days here, a couple days there, just exploratory, and it was always related to some sort of work that needed to be either an excuse for me to travel, basically, to go to some place. But lately it's changed to more enjoyable experiences, more longer term stays, not like couple days in 5 different places, but maybe a week here and a week there. Or last August, with my partner Alex from the other company, we went to Palo Alto, for example, for 2 weeks there. Exploratory, but still longer term, so it feels like vacation, change of scenery, work in the same time. So it's nice combination. And I don't know if I can do any more of those shorter term travels. I don't enjoy them as much these days, but it's definitely helpful. And I remember when we were in Germany, in Berlin, middle of COVID, everything was shut down. It was super sad, cloudy outside, winter, and you couldn't go anywhere. But the only
Depressed.
Yeah, very depressing. The only place that you could travel in Europe was Canary Island. So we went to Lanzarote for a trip, and that was like, I don't know, it changed my life so much, because I felt so depressing, and suddenly you go to a warm weather and nice weather, stayed there for 3 weeks. So those types of travels, I really love them lately compared to shorter term. But I have to have at least some sort of opportunity, either one meeting or something that can also feel like I'm productive, because otherwise, yeah, it's gonna get on the other side of not moving.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I wanted to ask you the question, Teddy, is like, do you like to travel, alone? Do you like to travel, together as a couple? Do you like to travel with business partners? How
Mm,
would you, when you're, same thing, Frank, you as well.
yeah.
Um, because this last trip I took without my wife, but obviously Mike, who is my business partner, I did go with him.
Yeah, depends how much time I spend with my wife. If it's like back in Germany or Macedonia, when we were like working from an office, being outside most of the time, it was good to travel together as a couple and take a proper vacation. Although I would look for a work or meeting opportunity, as I said. But when I spend more time with her, I would prefer to just change of scenery in that regard as well. Have a friend, go to places. Oh, and when I was younger, it was definitely traveling alone. I think that was really good experience. You're just like, it's a way of growing, of becoming a better person when you're just alone. Otherwise, you feel comfortable with if you're with another person. But if you're alone, you just feel like you have to do things like talk to people, go places, ask things, versus having a safe someone
Yeah, me,
next to you. I don't know.
I think about that a lot, right? Which is the evolution of travel as you get older. And so at first you're alone, and I think the first step to travel, which I almost forget about, but I have to rethink about, the first one is you lose your family. That's especially when you immigrate to another country. There's also like you lose your friend, and so for people who haven't traveled, like I think that's different. To me, it's been such a long time that I figured out a way to make friends anywhere, or I've got friends anywhere. But I definitely miss my friends or miss my family, and so you have to take that into account, I guess. And then in the near future, building my own family, and when you have kids, then I definitely don't want to impose anything on my child, what to do or where to go. The good news is the French system has a school everywhere in every major city in the world, so, so you can pretty much move anywhere. And my bet is the future is going to be very international, so I think it's fine. Now children can meet friends and keep in touch with them. So I could foresee, travel like that. But yeah, I travel all the time with Julia, and I try to, I try to again, I don't think like it's like work and life is the same for me, and so it's like if you can make it fun and work, then it's fine. I had a great experience, for example, when I went to Saint Martin. Really loved it. It was like a month there.
I was
That was
going to ask
awesome.
about
Like
that.
the hardest part and what really freaked me out is it took me a week to figure out where I can work from, for the internet, for all of that. And once you find it, then it's great. Because if not, I'm like Teddy, I would freak out, like shit, I can't push my stuff. But after that, you're like, again, like I think cash is also, of course, part of the equation. But I think once you make it to a certain level, it's kind of nice to be. I think renting makes a lot more sense for my near future, where it's nice to have one property, but I think once you have one, unless you want to invest in real estate, I kind of see a future where you just keep traveling every 6 months, to new places, and it's kind of fun until you have a
For your
kid, and then
kids.
you need to figure out education,
Yeah.
and then it's just once a year.
Yeah, one of our subscribers last week texted me directly, said, "Hey, do any of you have kids?" And I'm like, "No, not yet." Um, and I don't think anybody's planning on having kids today, right? Do we have any babies in the
Very
making?
soon.
What's the
Not
time? Not today.
not yet, but soon. I'm getting married in April, but I guess next year. And but I think kids don't change the spirit of it; it changes the rhythm of it. So instead of doing it 6 months, I think you do it every 5 years, and then
We
you
got to
kind of
ask
stay
somebody.
longer. It's easier. It's easier to move 5 years. Yeah, yeah. If anyone
Well,
listens
we
to
have
us
to
and want to be interviewed, and you sold your company and
who
you
have
have kids, and
kids.
it's
Yes, please. We want to talk to somebody because our
yeah, of
point of
course,
view is we don't have an
very
experience
biased.
in that. And okay, so Frank, you've got this long-term travel stuff. Um,
Mhm.
Teddy as well,
And my
longer.
theme, sorry,
Uh,
again, because I talked about it before, but to make it clear, my theme is I want to follow growth. So,
so
you know,
Vietnam is the
Asia,
next one.
then either South America or Africa. We'll see.
That's
Antarctica,
interesting.
the moon. If we were young enough, maybe it'd be Mars in
No,
a couple
yeah,
of years.
there's gonna be no growth in Mars for at least 200 years.
Mark these words, AI. They'll do some AI will pull this video out. It's like Frank was very wrong. So the founder of Startup Weekend.
200 years,
So
200 years is very optimistic. I'm being very aggressive.
yeah, yeah,
So we'll see.
absolutely. Okay,
We'll see history.
so
If you find me 200 years from now, I'm dead. It's my ghost.
but and then I want to think with people who have partners in the messy middle, like romantic partners who can't take these type of trips or can't travel these long distances. I with Nastya and I, we're having this conversation of where to live, where to move. She has flexibility in her career because she's a model and is not, she doesn't go to like the department store or the law office or whatever. Is not a doctor.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and and none of our partners are. Um, but Teddy, I
yeah.
know
But
Elena, she
on
she she
purpose,
she's got a full-time job,
true.
but she's remote. But now she's
Yeah.
taking, acting lessons. But Frank, Julia, it's she also is not
Oh
like a
no, no,
goes to the office.
that was on day one. I think as I aged, I think when we started dating, I was like, she was like, I want to do X, Y, Z, and I say, okay, deal. And then I say, I know what, at one point we'll live in Vietnam and maybe somewhere else, and we'll keep moving a lot. And she says, okay. And so to me, that was the main thing that's really difficult. Like in a relationship, you're right. Like, yeah, I know that if I would be with someone who has a very specific career in mind, then it would be difficult. And so to have a partner that's aligned with what you're trying to do, and I'm like, look, it's going to be chaotic. I have no idea what I do. I'm an entrepreneur, but if we travel, is it going to be an issue? And that's okay. And so to me, that was helpful.
It's very important
Yeah,
to be
It's
aligned on that. Yeah, I
it's
have
tough.
a.
It's tough to date when you're a founder, and we talked about we had a relationship episode, but yeah, definitely you have to think about it, pretty early on. Sorry, Teddy.
There's people that I know, no worries, people that I know whose spouses are not supportive in that sense. And I don't know how can I live that life. I mean, I probably won't be with that person. It's really important to have that support from your partner, aligned on the vision, and
Yeah.
ideally if they are flexible in terms of work. If you can just go somewhere together and work from there, that's even better. And then that's my case. So I'm quite happy about it.
Yeah,
Yeah, same
we're
here.
we're yeah, and similar here. I think I need to make a decision on where we're living, and then Nastia's like, okay, I'll decide based on that of which type of schooling do I do, and
Good.
she's incredibly supportive. So I'm grateful for that. And on the traveling side, I think for the partners, that you want to make sure you're aligned with that too, because I've seen for me, it's nice to do like maybe 1 or 2 trips a year where I travel just alone. That it's like, like the Paris trip was this year. Last February is to Singapore. And ironically, both times were because she didn't have her passport because she was getting visas for like UK last year, and this year she's getting the Schengen visa. But I think it's really important to have a couple, like you can do that for a couple of days, but you really shouldn't be away from your partner for more than a couple of weeks because then you have to come back and sort of the reality of being together makes it challenging. And I think a purpose is very important while you're
Maybe. I
traveling.
mean,
Frank, and interrupt me because I'm blabbering.
yeah, no, no, but I was gonna say, it's like relationship. Everybody has their own stuff, and it's every time I think of relationship, I think of Seattle. When I arrived in Seattle, I did the historical tour or whatever it was. Like, you go to the underground, and they tell you about the early days during the gold rush, when it was basically prostitutes and gold diggers who were like literally people digging gold, not the
Not
other ones.
prostitutes looking for
Um, and the story was the story of a mayor, and I think the mayor came in a city, kind of rebuild everything, but he left his wife somewhere in California, and he didn't see his wife for like 6 years. And when she came back, then he was married and had 3 kids. And and then you think about the 18th century, where people would go to war for like 10 years or 5 years and then come back, and it's now we like, and you would have this letter and you would write like, my dear blah blah, I think of you. It's like you get the letter after 5 months. Now you can travel at the other end of the world and just have a normal conversation every day. So it's definitely a different experience. But in history, like I think it has been managed differently before. But again, like to conclude, like 2 or 3 things. Number one is you feel better, I can tell, after your travel. Um, I think the other thing is if you feel kind of lost and in a messy middle, it might literally just be because where you are. And so at least just in doubt, go somewhere and just see if that changes anything. To me, it has changed a lot. I mean, I was in France, and when I left for my world trip, I was like, okay, where should I launch my business? And to me, the US itself, like the whole United States, not just one city, is what made a difference, because I was like, oh shit, I'm not alone. I'm just American. I just didn't know. But I felt more American than French, but like very, very vividly. And then after that, I think there's also the very basic macroeconomics factors, where's growth in the future. So it depends, if your business is going to be into, I don't know, assisting people who are 70 plus to have a better life, then sure, Europe is a great place to be, or maybe the US at one point, Florida.
Florida,
Sorry. Yeah. Uh, but
Delray Beach.
if exactly, and or Japan, actually, I should say, and Japan does that with robots, actually, quite famously.
Sure.
And if you want to be where the future is going to be and where 20 years old are and where everything is, and it's going to be Asia and Africa for sure. And South America, I'm still not sure what to think about it. Just a little chaotic.
And to be clear, it's challenging to do businesses in those places. Like I think, I've had
Trust is
experience
a big
doing.
issue. It boils down to trust.
Yes, and the only way to build trust, both on your side and your potential customers, investors, partners side, is by going there and visiting. So it's there's embedded trust between Europe and America. It's very different between, let's say, Europe, America, and then Asia, and then all the
Yeah.
countries in Asia. There's different styles, and it's the same thing in Africa as well,
Mm.
Middle East, and I think it's important to go see that and experience that. But I think you're right,
Yeah.
Frank. While we organize those three things, I think a fourth point is like, where do you actually like to live? You're only so
You're
let's
right.
let's
You're
put
right.
all
There's, I
growth.
forgot. I forgot about that. just not data.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that really depends on where you are in your financial profile, where
Yeah,
you are in
the
your
burn.
founder journey. Well, it's the
Hmm.
burn, it's personal lifestyle, and then success level. So
Hmm.
I think, let's say we know friends that have made whatever, $50 million, $100 million, $20 million. They could live wherever they want, and now they base it mostly on what they enjoy and how they want to live and what they want to work on. Where I feel like because I'm not in that place yet, I'll go where I think there's growth and where I can meet people and where I can make money. That is what I'm interested in versus complete lifestyle.
I consider my work to be mostly in front of a computer with internet connection, so I can work from anywhere. So the way I look at places is starting from, do I want to live in that place? Spend next couple years living there. But I've noticed that I was born in a neighborhood where we didn't have any sort of shops where you can go and buy basic stuff. You
No,
have
I've
to
seen your
walk
village.
for. It's not a village, but it was the neighborhood was really quiet in that sense. So you would have to walk to get groceries and that stuff. And then when I moved for college, I started living next to a place that works 24/7, like a gas station. And it changed my perception of places that want to live close by. And I said to myself, I always want to live next to a place that has something that operates 24/7. It gives me this sense of access to things all the time. And New York is that place. It's 24/7, full with gas stations, but basically you have everything at all times. So I'm looking at that even when I travel for like quick trips. If it's not like super quiet mountain, I would go to a place where there's something that works 24/7. And then the other thing is I'm looking at growth, but not necessarily. I'm mostly looking at whether that place. I lost my thought now. Whether the place you live is expensive enough, and then next time you travel, everything looks cheaper, right? So like
Yeah, New
going
York's a
from
good pick.
Skopje, yes, going from Skopje
Your next
to
city will
Europe.
be Monaco. You have to move to Monaco next.
Yeah,
Yeah, but New York gives me that
Singapore.
flexibility.
Or
Living
Zurich.
in Skopje was really different. Traveling to any European city, it's
Yeah.
always more expensive. But from here, regardless
Yeah, that's
where
true.
you go, it feels like cheaper or
Oh yeah,
worse the same level.
that's
So
true.
yeah, those are the two things
And
for
to me, if I can make some advertisement for Tallinn, but the thing I like in Tallinn is it's been 3 years back and forth. I go there about really a year, but I've got a robot delivering food to me 24/7, and everybody thinks right away like, oh, it's not gonna happen in France because the poor thing would end up in the Seine River and being like tagged and destroyed. And to me that it kind of feels like I'm living in the future, which is really cool.
Cool.
I I I I love the idea of both traveling to a place where it's much cheaper and you feel super rich, um, in a way that was like Moscow, Armenia, Southeast Asia, definitely. And then the idea of living in the future, I'm looking at Europe. Yeah, Estonia is like the tech.
Yeah, Estonia is depressing too, but in winter, so you want to escape. Which, by the way, sorry, we didn't talk about that, but that's something you and
So
I.
why do you live there during
No, hold
winter?
on, hold on. Just right now because I'm finishing to build my apartment, so it's also a necessity. I want to be done, but two things I wanted to say because you and I we talked about it a lot. I talked with Clint also about it, and I think that's going to be an important trend, which is we try to figure out what's the right way. And I think you and I came to the conclusion that whatever is the right way, there's no perfect place. And so you
Yeah,
kind of need, so the way you want to do that cocktail is, 6 months somewhere, 6 months somewhere else. So maybe if you have a kid, maybe it's like 8 months somewhere and 4 months somewhere else. And so now, not to me, it's I think less about where do I want to be, but more about what's this right combination. And I think there's two main one. One is US, Europe. It's a good one. Europe for food and life and nice things, and US for
summer.
business.
Europe.
Yeah,
Europe summer is the best.
yeah. And then there's the combination Europe, Asia, and there's the combination US Asia, and I kind of think about what's the next one, and I think maybe my next one might be US Asia,
We could also have
like
Europe, Africa.
Vietnam, San Francisco would be good, for example, like
Interesting.
that could make sense. Cheap dev AI, and it's like west to east, and then if Europe, actually Vietnam, France makes sense. But whatever.
Get some
Like
good
I
banh
feel
mi.
like, yeah. But I feel like, and by the way, in the US, another one which I think is really good too, and a lot of my friends are doing that, is US Central or US South America. Like
Yes.
we all have friends who have bought house or developed some weird stuff in Costa Rica or Puerto Rico in the
Brazil.
Caribbean or Brazil. Yeah. So
And
there's
Puerto
to me
Rico's
like
America.
to me there's this new axis where, and again we go back to my projection for 2024 and the years to come, and that's one of the startup I think of. But to me, AI is destroying the culture differences and the language barrier, and so to be able to directly plug US business into great labor and not having to care about language anymore is definitely going to increase these bridges.
Yeah. I, I think what's really cool about, what we do, where we are, and even though we're all in the messy middle here, is that we have this ability to travel, to move, even if it might seem like it's challenging, we've all done it before. So we're kind of living examples of moving to different places. And
But
we've talked about
the kids will make it more challenging. But my bet is
that's
by the time it happens, you should have online school that are really designed for that. If not, I'll have to
yeah, but
create
then
that startup, but someone has to build it.
there is the in-person element that kids like for school too. So, but yeah, we have no. I have views on it, but I have no experience. So until we have experience, it'll be really interesting to see.
Yeah, we should
Um,
bring someone for sure. It's
Yeah,
a
let's bring
guest.
someone with kids. Fabrice as a kid.
we should just bring a
Uh,
kid, but we should probably yeah. Uh,
who's done an exit? No, why not?
It's a good idea.
Uh, my
it's like
co-founder just had a kid,
my
but we should
dad, my
find
dad.
we should find someone who has
He's
been
too young.
with a kid, doing passing the messy middle and getting to his very next business.
I think Fabrice, who we really want to have on the show, would be a great example, but he's an outlier. I think it would be better to
Again,
find somebody.
I think himself said it like when he was talking about the founders in post exit founder, which is kind of what also our audience is. It's already the 0.0001%. We're already on that layer, so I'm not expecting anyone normal in our group. Just going to be weird stories anyway, which is fine because I bet this weird story might be actually not an outlier within that group.
It's true. It's true. Like I know two guys that they took their kids to Bali, and they went to school there for 2 years, and they
Yeah,
decided like let's go somewhere else. Or
yeah.
I one of the this is one of the people that I saw in Paris. They were living in LA, film producers, and they took their kid out of school in New York, in LA, and moved to Paris to go to this famous diplomatic American French school. Uh, and they're like, we'll stay for a year. They ended up staying 15 years,
Wow.
and it was like yeah, it was third of the price of the schools in the States, and the connections were amazing. Um, and they're both American. I saw them in France, and I'm like, well, do you do any work in France? And they're like, no. They're like, we live here, but all of our work is in the
Of
U.S.
course,
So I think that,
taxes abroad.
yeah, yeah. So, um, I think um, these models work, and there's lots of examples of it.
Yeah,
So our
and I also
suggestions,
wonder. No, real quick, I just wanted to say I think that more
yeah,
than outliers, these people may be trailblazer because I believe we're kind of a little bit ahead of what the rest of mankind will experience, and it's I wouldn't be surprised that the way education works is going to be changed a lot in the next 10 years. We'll
I don't
see.
know. Yeah,
Gen Z
I
loves
think
to
I think a
loves to
lot.
travel.
It's true. It's true.
My
Look, it
generation
depends.
didn't travel at all.
Teddy, when did you start traveling a lot,
When the
or did you not?
I did when the visa what's the word? Liberalization happened. We weren't
Uh,
allowed to travel without having a visa. I'm not sure of the year, but once that happened, it was really easy to travel. But most of the travels were when I started actually working. Uh, yeah, this was, I don't know, about 20 years old. Got my first
okay.
sort of job for a year for a Swiss company and started traveling to Switzerland. Um, yeah, those were the first real travels. Yeah.
And Frank, what age did you start traveling? I mean, you're from a family that goes hunting and shoots pheasants, so
That was when I was young. No, I mean, I always traveled. Like when I was a kid, my parents sent me to England, for like family. Like, so my
Mhm.
summer would be with a British family, or I did also, like, my summer would also be later on in my teens, like in the US. I did YMCA, so I grew up like starting to be ready to be abroad and travel, and then really accelerated when I started to make some cash. But one of my first
Bougie.
big travel when like, I remember, for example, New York. I remember we with a friend of mine from my college, engineering school. We wanted to do a New Year's Eve in New York, and we planned that a year in advance. And we booked the ticket, like the cheapest one we could find, a year before, and we took the money from our internship and put it on the side, just to spend it for New Year. So it's really funny because we stayed at a YMCA hostel on Upper West, 103rd, 108th, and we'd be like, in a room with like four people, like paying whatever, $25 a night or whatever it was at that time, and then we would dress up with suits and ties and everything, and then we'll go downtown to the most expensive restaurants and the most expensive parties for like a week. It was awesome. Um,
That's amazing.
that was really fun.
I I um I started traveling young too. Um, and my first trip to Europe must have been in my probably early teens, I'm assuming.
Mm.
Like nine, no, I think I was 9 or 10 years old. Went to Israel, Europe, and then that's a loud noise. And then uh, significantly started traveling in college all the way through, and then summers in immersion in Spanish speaking countries. And so when I
Yeah.
was in high school, I love
And then,
traveling, and
Yeah.
no, I was gonna say,
and
and
and I
then to
think
me, it went overdrive with Startup Weekend, because
yeah,
we travel every weekend to a different
and then
country.
with
That's
right, and then and for me with Gamma, it was U.S. to America,
Yeah,
U.S. to America, U.S. to Asia, and it was once a month that I go to Asia and all over Asia,
it's
and
exhausting.
it was great. It was exhausting, um,
Mm.
but I miss it a little bit.
Yeah.
So, who's going to do our quote? What's our, because I think we beat this topic to death here. Go travel, everybody. And if you need any advice on mileage tickets, credit card rewards, any bookings, you can contact our sponsor, 1 Mile at a Time. No, just you can email me. I have a bunch of. I just got my
That's
flights to
true.
Paris round trip. Round trip. I paid $500 and 20,000 miles for premium economy. So it was a very good deal.
That's pretty cool.
So. uh, So
And
who's
we'll
got the
talk about
quote
your
for today?
carbon credits later.
Yeah.
Mm,
I don't have any
Oh
quotes.
yeah,
I
I
my
don't
don't.
think
I
it's
carbon.
my
don't.
turn. There has to be 1 million quotes about travel. I mean, I can look for one, but if you guys have one,
No, it just
Oh,
needs
let's
to
see.
come naturally.
Let's see.
add one.
We've
We'll come
got.
back.
Have travel
I
quotes
could do.
book.
I mean, in French, we say les
I
voyages
no.
forment la
The
jeunesse.
Alchemist.
What is the French? What?
The
What's
French
the
one is
French?
les voyages forment la jeunesse, which means
The
travel.
journey.
Yeah, the journey, the journey shapes youth.
That's what Miley Cyrus said.
No,
That's
she
what Matter
said
said,
the most
anyways.
important part is the journey anyway. Um, sorry, it was more
Uh,
but no, but anyway, like, so to me, in a way, I guess the take on that quote is, traveling, and I guess even entrepreneurship keeps you young.
or
That's
really
yeah.
old.
No, no,
No,
No,
no, no.
again, like
Entrepreneurship keeps you young, or travel keeps you young.
I think I'm making it up. Like again, the quote is to say that traveling shapes your youth, but I would twist it into, traveling keeps you young, and I guess entrepreneurship too. I can see the
Yeah.
difference between someone who's an entrepreneur who's like traumatized by so many things, who had to do everything, who somehow build a company, versus some guy who get their stake every month, as a check from a big company for 20 years, and the day you stop getting that stake, then it's just like it's like the zoo just closed, and now you have to go back to the jungle, and you're like, what the fuck is happening, and you're getting destroyed. So yeah, keeps you young. Stay young,
Well,
travel,
thank you
and build a
guys.
business.
Well, thank you guys. This has been fun. I'm
Yeah,
actually heading tomorrow to go skiing, so I'm traveling again. So,
good.
um,
But you feel better, right?
and
It's like this trip in France
oh, so
brought
much better.
energy to you. Yeah, I can
So
tell.
much
That's
better.
good.
So much better. Okay. Well, I hope to see some of our subscribers in person. Let us know where you're traveling. Comment.
Yeah, and if you guys did an exit and want to be interviewed, just reach out. We're gonna start to make that
Yes,
list. And
please.
Or pay for our travels.
Please. Yeah, exactly.
yeah, Gabriel
Yeah.
will pay for everything. It's fine. Just do that.
Bye.
See you. Bye.
Bye.